The In This League Podcast Network.
Week 5, the hot seat. It is our boy, Michael Beller. Michael Beller in the house. You can catch him over at The Athletic, doing the fantasy football podcast with Brandon Funston. You can find him on Twitter at mbeller. And oh man, let me tell you guys, Beller's had it rough lately. I just want you to send out some T's and P's because Beller was just in Hawaii.
And I'm not. That's where I need the T's and P's for, because I'm not there anymore.
Right.
Well, T's and P's to you regardless for having to return to the sludge of wherever we are in the continental U.S. and not in beautiful Hawaii. How was that, by the way? Was it just the greatest thing ever?
It was lovely. One of my best friends got married, so wife and I went out there, and it was like a week-long vacation with like 16 of our closest friends.
Do they care about football out there?
It was pretty awesome.
Do they care about
football?
What?
I was surprised at how much they did, or at least to the extent that they had it on in places. Like there was a hotel bar that at 7 a.m. on Saturday had college football on, and then we actually left on Sunday, but there was NFL games on too. So it was not totally just faded into the background of ocean and Mai Tais and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's like super like stereotypical of just like anywhere that's not U.S. I'm like, do they like that? But it's just, I don't know. I was just thinking like in Hawaii, like I don't know how you get into anything.
It's like, so early. Football starts so early.
I don't care about early. There's just
I do,
beaches and beautiful. I know you do. There's just beautiful people, and there's beaches, and there's alcohol. It'd be like Vegas. Like in Vegas, how do you pay attention to anything? You go and put your bet in, and then you wake up 3 days later, and you're like, did this slip pay? Like that's what you would do in Vegas. I don't know how people care about football in Vegas or Hawaii, but we care about Beller. Beller, it's been a while since we've talked to you, so it's good to catch up. How's everything been going over on the Athletic Fantasy Football Pod?
Yeah, it's been going good. You left out Jake Seeley, so I hope he hears this because he's going to be super sad that he didn't get the attention.
Who is that?
Who?
Just me and Funston, right? Just me and Funston.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that other guy. Well, that other guy does. He does other shows. Is he known for this show?
What's he? I feel like the number one thing he's known for is cereal rankings. So other than that, it's like what else is he known for?
I wish I had I didn't think this through. I should have before the show mentioned this, so we could have gone the entire show without talking about Seeley. Just pretend he's not on. I wish I would have got you guys on the bit because then we could have not mentioned Seeley whatsoever, and then he'd be like, not that he would listen, but it could be like, hey, is Seeley still on there? But yes, no, we love Jake, and you guys have been rocking.
I honestly thought you did it on accident, and I was remaining silent so that Jake would eventually find out and at you on Twitter. That was what my bit was. So I was doing my own bit over here.
We're all doing bits here. We're all doing bits here.
Infinity. Yeah, it's infinity bit going on here.
And Beller's just the nice guy. He's just like, yeah, by the way, Jake is on there if you remember. It's like, dang it. But you guys have been rocking it and killing it, and obviously it's a great crew and Athletic. You guys are always the best, man.
Hey, thank you. We like to think that we're doing okay, but you guys are the best too. Let's be honest.
We're all the best.
We're the best in flex right now.
We are the best in flex. We are number one in that guy you were talking about, that league that he plays. So we are number one. We've been clapping cheeks, and I think we were high score 2 straight weeks. And Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuel will do that for you.
That's right.
Very nice. Yeah,
Beller, are you in one of the flexes? Are you in ours?
I am. I'm in the Superflex Online league.
No, we're not Superflex.
I mean,
we almost
thought we
were about that. Yeah,
Bogman thought we were Superflex.
We got auto pick Tyreek Hill. I was clicking Patrick Mahomes in the first round because I thought it was Superflex, and it was not. But it all worked out, and we're first place now.
Yeah, because we were Superflex last year. And I think we had the second pick. We went quarterback, and then we went Lamar and then Russell Wilson. And we finished pretty good, or we started amazing, and then we faltered. And then this year, going into it, we were like, click, click, click. We got Tyreek Hill, and we ended up getting Mahomes, and it's been good. So,
that's beautiful.
That guy's league. It's a good league for that. That all-in something that we were talking about. We're going to talk about Week 5, and before we get to the big week plays, which I didn't even look at last week, Boggs. How did everybody do? Did you look on some of our plays? I mean, I know I had Cordell Patterson, which was kind of a decent play for the week.
I think since I didn't save them and put them off to the side, it might have been forgettable for me.
That's why. Oh,
yeah. Usually, if I'm really good, I'm like, well, let's just put these over the side. Maybe we're going to talk about them later. But maybe this week. No, I think it was okay, but it wasn't my best week.
I'm always curious on the guest too. I think Bob Harris has had the best singular picks week of our guests so far. So Beller,
Nice.
it is your turn to do it, but we'll do that here in a little bit. Let's start with the biggest news that kicked off coming off of week one. If like us, if we do the podcast on Sunday night, we could only preemptively talk about it, but we found out the news on Tuesday, I think it was, that David Montgomery is going to miss significant time, as in 4 to 5 weeks. And Boggs and I had kind of preemptively had that conversation to say, hey, listen, if he misses more than one, Damian Harris is the default number one overall waiver pick. And even if he misses one game, Damian Williams still might be the guy. And it's, the news is worse for David Montgomery owners because 4 to 5 weeks is going to be very, very significant. And now Damian Williams is going to move into that role. So I'm curious at your take on Damian Williams' rest of season, or at least through these 5 weeks, as far as waiver claims go, and your level of trust in him being in your lineup.
I think we have to just operate from the assumption until he proves us otherwise that he should be an autoplay if you were able to snatch him up. Because, I mean, you look at the rest of the Bears backfield, right? It's Khalil Herbert is the next guy up. And one thing I love about The Athletic is we have full-on access to all of our beat writers. And I talked to Kevin Fishbane, our Bears beat writer, about this earlier this week. And he said that he expects Herbert to have a larger role as the second running back in Chicago than Williams had alongside David Montgomery, but it's still going to be Damian Williams running the show. We're talking 12 to 15 carries a week, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 targets a week. And pretty much any running back who gets that sort of workload is going to be, we would expect at least RB2 production out of. So I think if you grab Damian Williams, you're going to be starting him pretty comfortably and pretty happily until David Montgomery comes back. And then who knows what happens? Who knows if it takes a little longer? Who knows if he's played so well that he's carved out some sort of meaningful role? But we can worry about that in November. At this point, I would love having Damian Williams on my team. I had him stashed on a couple of teams before last week, so feeling good about that. But anywhere where I have him, he is already entered into the auto start situation for me.
The Bears averaging the 9th most rushing yards per game this season, 122. Actually tied with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly, 122.8. It's going to tick up under Justin Fields, though, is the interesting thing. It's not going to tick up necessarily under Damian Williams, but it's a good sign. It's a top 10 rushing offense in the NFL, just shy of 500 total yards. Averaging, though, of the top 10, here's an interesting one. They are the second lowest yards per carry, though, of any of the top 10 teams. Most sitting in the 5s. They're 4.4. Only team lower that has more rushing yards per game is the New Orleans Saints, who are averaging only 4 yards per rush. On the Damian Williams front, were you a full believer that Fab just needed to be just dumped into Williams? I think people are still kind of reeling from that. Did it need to be an all or nothing situation with him?
I wouldn't have gone all or nothing, and I guess it would depend a little bit on how much you had left and what you spent the first few weeks, but I did think it should be a significant bid. I think pretty much regardless of where I was on him and where my running back situations were, I was using it somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 to 75% to try to get him.
He wasn't available in a single league we played in.
Yeah.
Not one single league.
5 weeks, even 4 weeks of a starting running back with the sort of volume that the Bears are going to give him. That is well worth a huge chunk of fab.
Who do you Chuba Hubbard or Damian Williams? I think it's
Damian
probably
Williams.
See, I wish I could have had them at the same time, though, because we say
CMC came back to full practice today, didn't he?
And
he was at least in full pads. I don't know.
And that's why as soon as I said it, it's like, it doesn't work because, there was an assumption at some time that maybe Christian McCaffrey was going to miss, 2 to 3 weeks. And now he's probably going to come back this week. And it was only one game where Damian Williams is going to get a full workload. On Fantasy Pros, on the consensus ranks this week, Damian Williams is running back 18. Does that sound right? Mid RB2?
Sounds fair. Yeah, okay. I think that sounds fair. I don't know who's above him, but I think that everyone should have him somewhere in that mid RB2 range. It's hard to put him any higher than that because right now we think we know what we know, but it's still just a theory at this point before we really see him out there. And how does Justin Fields being locked in as the starter change things for the Bears? But yeah, I think mid RB2 is a fair spot for him.
A couple guys in front of him. This is interesting. Chase Edmonds is ranked 17th up against the San Francisco 49ers. Damian Williams or Chase Edmonds?
I would play Damian Williams first if I had both of them. I'd want to play both.
I would too, because we know that James Conner is going to be like a goal line back for them. Here's one, though. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's got Buffalo.
Ooh. I'm still going Edwards-Helaire. I mean, he's been productive the last couple of weeks, right? And the snap rate is maybe a little bit concerning, but he's doing the work with the work that he's getting. So I'll go CEH there.
Yeah, and I think that is just a factor of you're playing in the much better offense with Kansas City. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it goes back to what Beller said a couple minutes ago of we don't know what to expect with Chicago with Justin Fields because, he's a rookie. So it's going to be up and down and up and down. I do love the fact that, as the starter, they should start designing a little more RPO to run Justin Fields.
Would hope so.
And Montgomery can Williams. And when Montgomery comes back, can have some big runs coming off of that. So excited about that. But I got to take the guy in the best offense in the NFL.
Yeah. One guy below Damian Williams, Chris Carson, who's also kind of banged up this week. So Damian Williams. But right? if it's a healthy Carson?
I think I'm still going Williams. I mean, Alex Collins looked kind of good, right? In that game against San Fran. I feel like I don't think it would be a shock to see Alex Collins have some sort of role in Seattle's offense, even when Chris Carson is fully healthy. So I'll go Williams there too.
Yeah, it's got to be Williams just because Chris Carson, if he was healthy, it'd be closer. But he's got this neck thing. They play on Thursday, like it's a whole thing.
Yeah. I don't particularly like it. In this episode coming out on Thursday, we did something a little bit different where we stagger some questions in for the week. I kind of felt like after Damian Williams, questions kind of lacked in its uniqueness. I think there's a bunch of wide receivers that are kind of out there that are questionable. There's a couple situations that are questionable. So we decided to, instead of just focus in from a weekly perspective, I think this speaks to the week, to put together some polls, some who'd you rather, some player debates, if you will, of this guy or that guy for rest of season, not just about this week. I think you can, I'd actually be interested in answers of a this week perspective as well. But the question is designed around rest of season. So Boggs, I don't know if you want to start with the first one or you want me to do these or we go back and forth. We could do the ones that we did, but we've got 4 of them, Beller. That's going to be who'd you rather rest of season. And then we will also look to the public polling that we put out. We didn't give ourselves a ton of time before, but we will have some results. So, Boggs, you want to do that first one?
Yeah, the first one is just running backs in Philly. Are you going to go with Miles Sanders, who has been kind of tossed off to the side here? Now, Philly hasn't looked particularly great and needed to play catch up, but Kenny Gainwell looks like he's been playing a little bit better than Miles Sanders, and this is a new coaching staff, and they don't really owe Sanders anything. So who you going in that debate, Beller? You want Kenny Gainwell or Miles Sanders for the rest of the season?
And I just want to add, this is behind a conversation that we had on the show last week of, I think I'm over Miles Sanders now because of how Gainwell is working this. And we were having the debate of which one would we rather have. And, Gainwell has really moved up. So I just want to give it the context of, I think Miles Sanders is an easy answer, but the usage has changed so much and Gainwell is moving so much more into this offense. But what do you think?
I'm going to lean toward Miles Sanders. I don't really want either of them. I just this is going to be a headache of a backfield all season. It might not be a super productive backfield when you consider that maybe the offense isn't especially good. Like, what have they really done since that first game against Atlanta? And then, they picked up some garbage time production against the Chiefs last week. But maybe the offense isn't very good. Jalen Hurts takes a lot off the table with what he does as a runner. I don't really want either of them. The reason why I lean towards Sanders is I think that we should still expect him to get more carries than Gainwell the rest of the season, and more carries like by a factor of maybe 1.5. So I still just want that guaranteed volume when we're looking at these two guys, but more likely than not, I'm trying to divest myself of anything Eagles that isn't Jalen Hurts. Maybe Devontae Smith as well.
Do you feel the same way about this week? It's a tough Carolina matchup, I think, as far as run defense goes, which, if they're behind, could lead to them throwing more. And if they throw more, that I think is in favor of Kenny Gainwell. Which one do you like this week?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go with Sanders here because I just think that when we're talking about guys who are so uncertain with what's going to be up for them week in and week out, I want to trust the guy who I think is going to have the better line on volume. And I do think that Sanders still in this backfield, but it just speaks to the issues that you're going to be looking at every week with these guys. I mean, I just don't see a realistic scenario in which one of them pulls away from the other one. And so you're talking about, I think, a situation where, if we're talking about them versus one another, Miles Sanders is getting 65% of the carries. Kenny Gainwell's getting 80% of the passing production, and maybe it's just not that productive of a backfield to begin with. I wouldn't feel great about either of these guys the rest of the season.
And it's very early. We might, like at the end of the interview, take a look back at the poll results because the voting needs to get more. But currently, only 56% in favor of Miles Sanders over Gainwell right now, rest of season. So I think that tells you a decent amount. This is one, that's probably my favorite one of all of them. And this is one that I tweeted out if people want to check it out. We've been having the debate. If there was, I think, topic number 2 to talk about of like players, it'd be Robert Woods. Robert Woods and the incredible mystery of what has happened to him in the offense does end up getting a doofy touchdown, but he's just not targeted even remotely close. Van Jefferson is starting to look like a better option, and we can't keep playing it's this week. No, it's this week. Like, how long can we play that? So I pitted this guy up, Robert Woods, against somebody that when I said it, Bogman was like, this is going to be a bloodbath if you do it. So I'm curious at what you take. Tyler Boyd, who ranges from the top to the number 3 wide receiver in a pretty efficient Joe Burrow offense. T. Higgins is out. Boyd continues to run, but Jamar Chase looks like the explosive option. But Boyd isn't a clear-cut number 1, but either really is Woods at this point. So who would you rather have rest of season? And then you can also answer this week, Robert Woods or Tyler Boyd?
See, this is a fun one because I actually want both of these guys the rest of the season. And so
the opposite of Sanders and Gainwell for sure.
Yeah, it is the opposite of Sanders and Gainwell. I'm happy to have either of these guys the rest of the season. I would prefer Robert Woods, actually, just because of the fact that I still think that even with what you have Van Jefferson doing what he's doing, you have Deshaun Jackson who's going to pop some big plays. But I find it hard to believe that Robert Woods has totally fallen off a cliff. Maybe it's taken him a little bit longer to get on the same page as Matthew Stafford and just the way that this Rams offense has changed. But with all the success he's had with Sean McVay, I would find it very hard to believe that he goes from these consistent year after year after year in LA to almost literally nothing, and certainly nothing from a fantasy perspective that we've seen. Tyler Boyd has been basically what we thought he was going to be, a guy who's going to pop up every now and again, but maybe is running third in Cincinnati's passing game when all 3 of the receivers are healthy. No surprise that he had his best game when T. Higgins was out. And so I think that he is still someone we should be viewing as the wide receiver 3 in Cincinnati, which can be a wide receiver 3 in fantasy as well when all 3 guys are healthy. So I think that ceiling is Woods, floor is Boyd. Both guys are relatively startable every single week, depending on what the rest of your roster looks like. I just want to believe that there's going to be more from Robert Woods, and I really like the floor and the foundation that you get from that Rams offense. I'll go Woods. I think both guys are very good and very startable the rest of the season.
Boyd's got Green Bay and Woods has Seattle this weekend. Which one do you want this week?
Man.
It sucks that we probably have to make the decision before we know for sure if Higgins is going to play. If Higgins is out, I think it's pretty easily Boyd over Woods. But Woods playing on Thursday, you're probably going to make that call before you see it. I'm going to lean towards Woods. I do think that the tea leaves are pointing toward T. Higgins making his return for the Bengals this week. So I like Woods against that Seattle defense in a game that we should expect to be a high-scoring game, 54.5, I believe, the over-under on that one. So I'll go Woods, even though I'm guessing that is the minority opinion on this one.
Boggs said it would be a bloodbath in favor of Tyler Boyd.
I thought it would be.
Absolute bloodbath. The voting is only 58%, and it is in favor of Robert Woods. So I was right.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, you thought you were like bloodbath. This is going to be Boyd over Woods.
Well, look, I'm kind of coin flippy about this. I'm not nearly as I'm not as happy with sticking with Wood as Beller is. I can't. It's been 4 weeks. It's Matt Stafford. They've had Deshaun Jackson's had bigger games than him so far. Our guy Higbee has had some decent games with him, and we've seen from Robert Woods for real is 1 garbage touchdown. That is it. Yeah. It has been nothing from him. So because of that, look, the talent, I agree. The talent is too much there for him to stay like this the whole year. So I do think he's going to come up, but Higgins kind of banged up right now. I like what Tyler Boyd has been doing specifically for this week. I do think that Woods has the better matchup against Seattle because their secondary and defense is just bad right now. And like you said, Beller, huge over in that game. But I think, Chase is going to get Stokes. Jair Alexander's trending towards not playing for Green Bay, and the rest of that secondary is pretty bad. So I like Boyd for this week for sure. But I'm legit surprised by this poll. But that just goes to show, that's kind of like the CEH argument that we had before. People just want the guy in the better offense. And, Cincinnati has a good offense, but it ain't Sean McVay and Matt Stafford.
Boyd is ranked higher in Fantasy Pros consensus ranks. He's essentially the last wide receiver 2. He's 24. Robert Woods is 27. So he's moved to wide receiver 3. They're close enough. It's sometimes splitting hairs, but that decision might be a real one. 2 more Bogs. Let's burn a little bit quicker on these. You have one more wide receiver one, and it hits home.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster versus Jalen Waddle. Now, we've seen Waddle hasn't had those explosive plays that he was drafted for, but Roethlisberger can't get the ball to Juju. He's open on almost every play, so this is a difficult one to know because we're going between Brissett and Tua in Miami, and that might be an all-year thing. I don't think it's going to be just, Tua's back, here we go, because he's so banged up constantly. So what do you think between these two wideouts?
Another one where I think he would want to be finding somewhere else to go. But, man, I just don't know. I don't know how you have any faith in anyone in Pittsburgh's passing game other than Deontay Johnson. He's been the only guy who's been able to do anything with any sort of consistency. And that just, that offense came into the year looking like it could be a real mess. And everything we were concerned about with it has happened over the first 4 weeks. 17 points is the most points they've put up on offense. Don't look at that week 1 Bills game. That was a block punt where they got a touchdown. Yeah. So 17 points is the max for them.
It's them and the Jags that haven't scored 24. Those are the two teams.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And they haven't scored. They haven't put up 20 offensively. It's been 16, 17, 10, and 17. So I got to go Waddle here. I just don't see how you like anyone in Pittsburgh's passing game other than Deontay Johnson.
I'm sadly moving off of the Juju train too. Here's an interesting note. Neither are being valued as wide receiver 3s this week.
I believe it,
Yeah, they're in the flex, at best, the flex spot. And Jalen Waddle is ranked higher against Tampa Bay this week, 40th, where Juju is down at 44, and I think that's the play. This one, sadly, is the most overwhelming, 76.3% in favor of Jalen Waddle over Juju at this point. That is a huge, huge line. Rest of season, people are saying. Juju is not startable in anybody's mind right now. And that is something. That is something else.
Well, look, if Ben could have got him the ball, he probably had 2 scores last week. So that's ifs and buts or candies and nuts. I know all that stuff, but it's ugly right now. Ben can't get him the ball.
Last one is the most fun. This is so much fun. This last one we'll do before we get to our week plays. This one pits up a top name who has literally done jack poop the entire year. Versus maybe one of the more surprising names. Unless your name is the Welsh, Bogman, and not Bogman.
Yeah, I remember you were predicting Cordell Patterson to go off for Atlanta before the season started.
At least I said him over Mike Davis weeks ago. But that is the debate.
We're only 4 weeks in, 2 weeks.
Allen Robinson, who has struggled with it. It doesn't matter the quarterback struggled. They don't give him the targets. Darnell Mooney was your big explosion. To be fair, now that Montgomery's out, this could change the focus on the offense, and you got to get him going. But a quarter of the season has essentially gone by. Allen Robinson versus Cordell Patterson, who Patterson has multiple qualifications in some places, is a wide receiver threat, and he gets rushes. He's almost guaranteed 5+ rushes a game. He's getting targeted anywhere from 6 to 8 times a game. He's a major touchdown explosive option for them. So it might seem crazy. Rest of season, Allen Robinson or Cordell Patterson?
Robinson by far, without question.
Thank you.
There's no doubt about it. Allen Robinson is about to go off starting this week. I got to feel. He's too good. He's never been bad. There's never been one season in his career where he's ever been bad. And so why would this suddenly happen now? It's been a fluky start to the season with the quarterback. Throw week 3 against Cleveland totally out the window for the entire passing game. But basically act like that didn't happen because Matt Nagy basically acted like it wasn't happening while it was happening. Forget about that game. If Allen Robinson is suddenly bad, then the universe just doesn't make any sense. And there are some ways where the universe doesn't make sense, but I do think it makes sense here. Allen Robinson all day, every day here.
Okay, Boggs, I know you're Allen Robinson. I'm not disagreeing. It's a massive talent. I was like last week to me was like, all right, it's got to be Allen Robinson. It's got to be Robbie Anderson. It's got to be all the guys. It's got to be Robert Woods, and it still hasn't happened. I just think 4 weeks through, it's a little bit concerning. So Allen Robinson, default easy answer, but you might be surprised. Only 58% say Allen Robinson over Patterson for the rest of this year. This week's ranks are wildly different. Allen Robinson, I mean, I think there's two wrongs. Or there's maybe one wrong here and a okay. Allen Robinson is ranked as a wide receiver 3 this week, which might be a little bit low, but you understand. Patterson is not even ranked as startable this week after what he's done relatively consistently. According to Fantasy Pros, 53 at wideout. Maybe they're valuing him at running back. I think it's silly, but it tells you a lot that only 58% want Robinson right now, which Allen Robinson might be a pretty solid trade target right now because he is at an all-time low. All-time low. All right, friends, that was fun. By the way, the only one that's really moved was, well, it moved back. The Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders went to 50-50, and then now it's 55% Miles Sanders. So I think that's the biggest divisive one that we got.
It's moving all over the place.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. It's the stock market. It's like Tesla. Let's go and look at our week 5 plays. And Baylor, how we do this is it's like snake style. So we'll let Bogman start. We'll let you kind of get the gist of it. And we'll go through down to wide receivers. This is kind of the layup one. It's just the table setter here, but it's the top quarterback for the week. The number 1 quarterback play for you this week. And Bogman, we'll let you kick it off.
Kyler Murray for me. I know they did it all, last week with rushing. It ain't going to happen again. They're going to be tossing the ball against your banged up Niners defense. And obviously he does it with his wheels as well. So Kyler Murray, number 1 for me. Pretty easy.
I think it's pretty, and we can all have the same ones. I think that's one of the top picks, of course. I'm going to go a little bit in the other direction, and I'm going to say, give me my Josh Allen. Give me my Josh Allen, or shall I die, however you want to say it. Give me that. One of the worst pass defense, one of the worst defenses Kansas City has been. Josh Allen does it on the ground, does it in the air. Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, I think those are interchangeable. I think Patrick Mahomes, usually we could say like Patrick Mahomes in that list. Buffalo's defense doesn't screw around. This is a tough matchup for him to put up those gaudy numbers where Josh Allen is going to be able to run, I think, guaranteed rushing touchdown on Josh Allen this week. And I think you're going to see more of Dawson Knox, and Diggs is going to have a bigger breakout. So if you're not picking Kyler Murray, I'd go Josh Allen. Those guys are number 1 and 2. Beller, are you full agreement, or you think there's another guy that kind of, jumps in there?
Nah, I'm with Bogman here. I mean, I think Kyler's like the default QB1 every week, and you can throw Mahomes in there too. But it's like you have to find a reason to not make Kyler Murray your QB1, and I'm not finding one this week. That team scores 30 points like it's nothing every single week.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, so we're going to snake back to you, and this is where the game really starts. Your surprise quarterback 1 for week 5. So a guy that is not typically seen as a quarterback 1, maybe due to matchups, but it's a surprise QB1 for week 5. Who do you got for that?
Look over this left shoulder. You see that baseball logo behind me?
Yeah.
Probably figure out which football team I cheer for there. Justin Fields all
likes to
day.
run.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. Justin Fields is going to, and now he is locked in. He's the starter. No looking over his shoulder. The Bears, I think, will have a little bit more of his sort of game plan. And we saw it. We saw it incrementally. It's easy to make fun of Matt Nagy. I do it all the time. But we saw it trend a little bit more in his direction last week, and I think we see it go a little bit more in that direction in week 5. We saw the connection with Darnell Mooney. No reason to think Allen Robinson doesn't get going sooner rather than later. A Raiders offense that could force the Bears to have to score a little bit in this one as well. Give me all the Justin Fields I can handle this week.
It's interesting that Fields, and essentially what you're feeling on Fields is what the consensus feel on Trey Lance, which I think is kind of silly. Trey Lance had 2 touchdowns last week. I went on a rant about it, that they just weren't on his talent. It was on Debo. Yeah, well, one of them was the ridiculous one where he underthrew Debo by 20 yards, and Debo had to literally stop and go backwards, catch it, and then run because he's so good. Trey Lance does not look good. He looks awful. Trey Lance is ranked as QB 13 this week against the Arizona Cardinals because I'm assuming people are thinking a lot of garbage time that he's going to be running around. But Justin Fields actually showed that he could do it. He's ranked 22nd this week on Fantasy Pros consensus, and I would flip those guys, I think, this week. Until Trey Lance proves it, Justin Fields has done it. I like that one. For my surprise QB of the week, I'm going to go to the Giants, and I'm going to go up against Dallas, where Dallas has got given up the second most passing yards in the NFL. Daniel Jones has been looking good, whether you're getting it on the ground, you got to hope that, I don't know where Shepard is at with this, but Galladay getting going. Barkley looks fantastic. Daniel Jones just looks good. And Dallas's defense does not. They're cutting Jalen Smith. They're just trying. I don't know what they're possibly doing, but they are literally number 2 in passing yards given up. They only gave up 266 in the last, but they're averaging 315 passing yards in 2021 right now. And Daniel Jones, whether they're playing from behind or up, is probably going to be doing it on the ground or in the air. So he's a solid surprise QB1 for me this week. What do you got, Boggs?
For me, I'm going to go just up against a bad defense. Let's go with Matt Ryan, who is angry about rumors that he wants out. Apparently, I don't know. Why would an Asian quarterback want out of a situation where there's no way he's going to win a game? So, but anyway, Matt Ryan is going up against the Jets, and we saw Ryan Tannehill without his number 1 and number 2 wide receiver last week throw for 290 yards against this Jets team. And Matt Ryan let's open up Cordell Patterson. Let's go Calvin Ridley. Let's get Kyle Pitts in the end zone. Even stupid Mike Davis can catch a swing pass or two. So let's go. Let's get this Atlanta offense moving, because that's what we need to happen.
As long as nobody lays one finger on Kyle Pitts, he's guaranteed to catch a touchdown. If anybody covers him or shows him any pressure, he will drop the ball and crumple into a little ball. Let's go to running backs. Bogman, on the snake, you get to go surprise RB1 for the week. So a non-typical RB1 that jumps in. Are you going to do what I think you're about to do?
Let's go. You know what? I was looking through. It was tough to pick one this week because I think there's a glob between 8 and 20 that could all be a running back one. I thought that's a little too easy. So I'll go off board. Give me playoff Lenny Fournette against Miami. They're going to get up against the Dolphins. They're going to run the ball a ton in the second half. It's going to be a lot of Leonard Fournette, and I really loved what I saw with him last week, specifically touching the ball so much. So back to playoff Lenny. Let's go.
Yeah. All right.
Did you watch the last game?
I did, but it's a guaranteed Ronald Jones. You just did that. So, okay.
Ronald Jones got way fewer snaps.
I'd have given you if you did this as QB2 or running back 2, but all right. I like it. It's bold. The bold is what gets paid off.
No risk it, no biscuit. Come on.
My surprise RB1 this week, I'm going to move over to the Rams, and I'm going to go to Darrell Henderson, who's got Seattle. Seattle has given up the 3rd most points to running backs this season. Last week, he had 14 carries for 89 yards. He also got 5 catches, 6 targets in the game. So he went over 100 total yards. He's going to score. He's going over 100 again. It's one of the worst defenses against as far as stopping running backs. Like I said, the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs is Seattle. Darrell Henderson, RB1. Beller, what do you got?
I'm going to reach a little bit, you guys. I'm going to go pretty far down the list here. The running back who did some pretty good work against Seattle last week was Trey Sermon. How about throwing him into this mix? Trey Sermon, Trey Lance maybe opens things up for him. A little annoyed that he didn't get targeted at all last week, but I feel like I was a big Raheem Mostert guy coming into the season, and we know what great running back environment you're going to find in San Francisco week in and week out. And part of the reason I wasn't in on Sermon was because I was so strongly in on Mostert. Without Mostert, Trey Sermon is unquestionably the most talented guy back there. And it's just a matter of getting him comfortable and getting him going. And we see this with rookie running backs quite often. And I think that last week showed us that Sermon can handle a big workload. And so now that he has checked that box, I think he starts to take off here. So I'll take him going up in what could be a high-scoring game against Arizona.
I'm very excited to see when Eli Mitchell comes back, what they do, if they do a true mix, and if Eli doesn't come back until Jeffrey Wilson Jr., how that screws things up. But it's definitely a good pick. All right, you get to go again, Bella. You're going to be snaked down to the surprise RB2 of the week. So this is probably maybe at best a flex or a non-startable running back that plays RB2 this week.
You guys are going to love this one. Give me Mike Davis. Let's do it. I mean, I know it's been ugly. It's been ugly all season. Believe me, I know it. I get it. I'm sort of stuck with him in one league that means a whole lot to me. But he gets work. He gets opportunity. And one of these days, that opportunity is going to come through for him enough. I mean, last week it did with that little pass that he turned into a touchdown. I just think that as long as the opportunity's there, then he is going to have the chance to be an RB2 every single week. And, a game going across the pond to London, going up against that Jets defense that, can get a little bit of pressure, but not really going to scare anyone too much. Like, I think there's room for a lot of guys in Atlanta to put together good games this week. And so I'll take Mike Davis on the fact that I don't see anything really stopping him from 13 carries and 4 targets. And so I'll take the chance that he ends up giving me RB2 value on that.
So it's interesting that you picked him. And a quick pickup, in case I said it incorrectly, Darrell Henderson with Seattle, the third most points given up to running backs. I might have got excited and said the most. The second most points given up to running backs is the New York Jets.
There you go.
And I sat hard and long on Mike Davis, and I almost picked Mike Davis. But I decided to maybe it's cheat a little bit, and I'm going in the other direction. Give me Cordero Patterson as my guy this week. I'm going back to the well, all the points given up, because it might not happen just in the run game, but he should qualify at running back everywhere to put him in. And I will admit, like, Mike Davis was almost my pick, but I think Patterson has the floor because he's going to get those receptions. He's just going to get those, even if they moved away from the carries, and he looks explosive. Mike Davis does not look explosive. You know what Mike Davis likes to do? Fall every time he's touched. That's an Atlanta Falcons trait.
Broke
by the
9
way.
tackles on his touchdown against Washington.
Every time I see him, he falls over.
I think that those were the first broken tackles he had the whole.
Every time I watch him, he falls over. Kyle Pitts gets covered, he drops it. That's all they do. Doesn't happen to Patterson. He built up the trust, and I think he's a floor option. So essentially, me and Bella are going with Atlanta as our surprise RB2 this week, and I don't think that's too wrong.
I mean, the Cordell Patterson bubble's going to burst, but not against the Jets. So I'm 100% with you on that call. Look, Trey Sermon was my guy here. So, Bella's like me a little bit. I'll go with Zach Moss against Kansas City. I just think you're going to have to play point for point against Kansas City if you're Buffalo. And I know they went back to closer to 50-50 split with him and Singletary, but he is the goal line back. So give me Zach Moss to get in the end zone at least once against Kansas City.
All right, the surprise running backs. This is not someone that you're out there starting. This is a surprise running back. Maybe you threw him at RB2, probably a flex, but you're getting him out here due to the matchup. Boggs, who are you going with?
Give me Kenny Gainwell against Carolina. He's down the list a little bit because this offense doesn't look good, but they do like using him in the red zone a bunch. So let's take him and hope he gets in the end zone.
I kind of have gone down this well before, and I didn't realize how much I'm sticking in this game. I'm gonna go with Michael Carter. Atlanta also gives up points. They're definitely giving up the points. He's getting the run, play from behind. They'll also throw him the ball. I think it's rough to get any of these Jets guys in there, but I just feel like we're waiting for Michael Carter to pop, and this is the pop game. Atlanta,
you're going to have to wake up early, man. That game's, I believe, starts at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. So,
I won't be waking up early, but it will be Michael. I think also there's this opportunity. Don't hold it out. The Jets actually could take a lead. Atlanta is so wishy-washy.
For sure.
And if the Jets take that lead, they're going to try to
just won a game.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. So if they're doing that and they're trying to establish any type of lead, they're going to run the ball. Atlanta's not going to stop the run. And Michael Carter is going to be one of those guys that's going to be given the opportunity. So I like Michael Carter this week as a surprise get-in due to that defense. What do you got, Belly?
Hey, I reacted the way I reacted because that's my guy too, Michael Carter. Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, he's the most talented guy in that backfield. He's got double-digit carries in 2 of the last 3 games, and the one he didn't was the one where they got beat 26-0 by the Broncos. I think they're already handing the keys of the backfield over to him, at least in a first and second down role. And so that right there, in a game that should be close, in a game I do think that they can win against this hapless Atlanta team, I think we get plenty of Michael Carter in this one. I would actually feel pretty comfortable starting him in anything but like really shallow leagues.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last ones up here are the wide receivers. So this is your surprise wide receiver 1 for week 5. And Bella, you get to start.
We've already talked about him and saying that we're at this point where we can call him a surprise wide receiver 1, but the Allen Robinson breakout arrives on Sunday all day. This Raiders defense, this Raiders secondary is not really scaring anyone. All those injuries, Justin Fields, Allen Robinson, we're going to see what they can really do together starting this week.
I went over, and I'm sorry, Boggs, I went over against your Pittsburgh Steelers, and I decided to take Cortland Sutton. Steelers have given up the 5th most points to wide receivers so far this year, and Cortland Sutton is a monster. I don't expect a lot of coverage. They don't have a lot of other options there, so Cortland Sutton, surprise wide receiver 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jamar Chase gets to go up against not Jair Alexander this week. So Eric Stokes, the rookie, he looks great, and he had a pick at the end of that game against Roethlisberger. I mean, it's a terrible pass, but he had a pick, but he also had 9 tackles because he was getting the ball caught right in front of him. So Jamar Chase gets in the end zone again, so I will go with him.
Surprise wide receiver 2, and Bogman and we might have a theme that's going on here. So guys that are jumping in as not normal wide receiver 2s. Maybe mine is a little bit more normal, but Boggs, you get to start.
Dark is out, and Laviska went ham with him going down. So give me Laviska against Tennessee and this roughed up secondary.
Hey, guess what? Nobody gives up more fantasy points to wide receivers than the Tennessee Titans. They're the worst. They're the absolute worst. Over 3 more points than the next worst, which is Tampa Bay. 31.8 is what Tampa Bay is giving up. 34.5 according to the football database. Give me Marvin Jones. Give me my guy Marvin Jones. Big sling, big plays. There's under throws that are going to go to Laviska. He's going to get targets, but Marvin Jones is the big explosive guy. Tennessee can't cover anything. And I think you could talk about what mindset that the team is in, but Marvin Jones would be good. So give me Marvin Jones as my surprise high-end wide receiver 2 this week. So not just wide receiver 2, but high-end wide receiver 2. So
Beller, you want to take Tavon Austin? Or
I do not want to take Tavon Austin. No, thank you. I'm not going to keep that theme going. I've got my own little theme going. Guys who haven't done much to this point of the season, who I expect to do something in week 5. 11 targets for Robbie Anderson in week 4. Didn't do a ton with him, but they're making a concerted effort to get him more involved. Talked with Joe Person, our Panthers beat writer, earlier this week, and he said that that's something that Matt Rule and Joe Brady have talked about a lot over the last 10 days, 2 weeks or so, that they know that offense is better when Robbie Anderson is not only getting opportunities to make plays, but actually making those plays. And so they're trying to put him in spots where he can make those plays. I think it finally comes through for him this week. So I'll take Robbie Anderson getting into that wide receiver 2 group.
Yeah, I had him last week, and the theory was correct as one of my breakouts with Robbie Anderson, because he got the 11 targets, but only caught 5 balls, and they just weren't creative. And that's been half of my problem with a lot of these guys that have been struggling. I just don't feel like offenses have done enough to get creative to get them involved. And it's just like, Devontae Smith, the same thing with the Eagles. It's just like, put him outside. No, put him in the slot. Have him move around. Get these guys creative. That's what they should do with Robbie Anderson. Last one, your sleeper wide receiver for week 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go Curtis Samuel. He got healthy last week, played his first game. Really just sort of getting his feet wet. Didn't do a ton in that game, but good to see that he was out there for a majority of the plays and, didn't aggravate anything. So now with Logan Thomas looking like he's almost certainly going to be out in this game, this Washington team desperate for a second consistent playmaker in the passing game outside of Terry McLaurin, I think Curtis Samuel can be that guy. So he's someone who I think we start to give a lot of attention to in week 6 and beyond.
My guy, I'm picking on a defense again. The Chicago Bears have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers, and Henry Ruggs continues to at least be an explosive option. He has had 2 of his 4 games. He's had a long of over 50 yards. He's had his long at least 23 yards or more in each game, targeted 5 times or more in each game, and only 1 game has he had less than 60 yards receiving. There's only been 1 touchdown, but a poorish Bears secondary as far as what they give up to wide receivers. A big play to Henry Ruggs, touchdown, surprise. Give me Henry Ruggs. What do you got, Boggs?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going down the well far enough here, but I'm going to take AJ Green. We talked about how we think Kyler Murray is the number 1 guy at quarterback for this week. So I'm going to go with one of his wide receivers that has been getting open. And AJ Green couldn't get any separation last year, but he is seeing the ball pretty well this year. And I'm excited about what he can do against your Niners defense. So kind of a theme, Welsh picking against my Steelers. I'm picking against his Niners. It makes sense. Both of our secondaries are not great. So
Michael Beller, M. Beller on Twitter, over at The Athletic, our dude. Beller, how can people, do you got a code for people to sign up if they haven't checked out The Athletic and they just decided this week they want to get in?
Hey, thank you. We do, in fact, theathletic.com/fantasy football pod. That'll get you 50% off your first year at The Athletic right there.
Fantastic. Literally no reason not to do it. It's an incredible source. And so many of our great friends are over there, and Jake Seeley. So many great people are over there doing that type of stuff. No, I'm just kidding. And we'll end up, hopefully be seeing some soon on the baseball front if anybody's out here for first pitch. But Michael, it's good catching back up. We haven't talked since baseball. Continue the fantastic work, and thank you for rocking the hot seat for week 5. We did it. We did it, friend.
Yes, nailed it. Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me.